Hello and welcome to another episode of the Camps Bay Guy podcast. Today I have Kobus De Kock on the podcast from a company called Currencies Direct. And Currencies Direct are foreign exchange experts, and they can help you bring money in or out of South Africa, which is very helpful if you are sending money out of the country to buy a property or do a business deal or something like that. Or if you're buying a property in South Africa and you need to send large sums of money into the country, and they go through all the red tape for you and do everything you need. But let me not carry on with that. Let's get into the episode. Kobus, thanks so much for joining me on the podcast today. I think today's topic is such an important topic, especially with the amount of foreigners that are buying property in South Africa, as well as the amount of South Africans that are also moving their money abroad. I think it's going to be quite an interesting discussion. To kick things off, why don't you give us the basics? Who are Currencies Direct? Who are you? And what do you guys do?
Okay, Josh, thanks for having me on the podcast. Currencies Direct is a foreign exchange company. We specialize in international transfers to and from South Africa. We opened our doors in the UK in 1996, and then at 2005, 2006, we opened offices in South Africa, obviously because we saw a gap in the market for foreign investors buying property in South Africa, and also South Africans that want to repatriate their funds overseas.
Wow. Okay. So and it's quite a big industry. You guys do quite a lot of business.
Yeah, it's quite big. Last year we did about 10 billion pounds of forex. So
wow.
We've got over 600,000 active customers, and we have a global footprint. We've got 25 offices all over the world. So yeah, we've the global footprint is real.
Wow. Amazing. So when it comes to property transaction, especially for foreigners, what specific services do you offer to make their lives easier?
I think for someone to transfer a big amount of money to a foreign country is obviously very stressful. We offer competitive rates, and we basically go through the whole process with the client to let them focus on the property that they're buying, and we focus on exchanging their currency and bringing their funds into the country the correct way by reporting the funds with the South African Reserve Bank and the South African Exchange Control for easy and seamless and stress-free repatriation in the future.
Wow. And foreign exchange feels like such a critical part of any international property transaction. But also, I'd imagine that it can get quite tricky. What are some of the biggest challenges your clients face when trying to bring money in or out of South Africa?
I think the biggest one is the exchange rate fluctuations. It can basically change in half an hour, even quicker. And I think also the high fees that your traditional bank might charge, or any commission that they might charge, and all the transfer fees that's involved. I think that's the biggest issue for the clients. And, if you bring in funds into South Africa and you didn't report it the correct way, it's very difficult. There's a lot of red tape involved to get those funds out of South Africa again.
Sure. What's some of that red tape?
Well, red tape is you don't have any documentation of bringing in the funds. It's 10 years later. You don't have any proof that you brought in that funds. And then, if you don't have that proof, then you need the clearance from the South African Reserve Bank. Otherwise, they won't release the money. And it takes about 6 to 8 weeks on a good day to get that approvals. And we take that red tape from the client, and we handle that admin, and we get all the documentation that the client need and the approvals, and the client just wait to get the go ahead to send their funds out.
Amazing. So how do you do you guys have like a document bank where you will help each client, you'll like keep those documents for them for maybe when they do, let's say you bought a property now in South Africa, you sell it, you're now going to send those, you now say, okay, I want to take my money out of South Africa and I want to put it in another country. You guys obviously manage that whole process of keeping those docs for them, and 10 years later, now you've got those docs, you can easily get the funds out.
Yes.
No problem.
Yeah, so when we register a client and a client uses us, the moment that funds get introduced in South Africa, we keep that, they're called the BOP report. We keep that report on the client's profile with us. We send the client a copy, we send the attorney a copy. 10 years later, and the client is still our client because he uses us in that 10 years to bring funds over for living funds. We then just have that document, and our exchange control team then uses all the documentation that the client needs to get the approval, and he can send out those funds in 3 to 5 working days.
I wanted to interrupt this episode to let you know that you can book a 30-minute call with me. Just click on the link in the description below, fill in your details, and we'll chat. Cheers. And how do you combat the exchange rate fluctuations? Like I know you said, like, let's say somebody is sending, let's say they need 10 million rand, and all of a sudden the rand just strengthens and they're sending in dollars and now it's only worth 9.5 or something. For example, how do you guys help your clients combat that? Are there any strategies you guys use?
When a client deals with our foreign exchange dealer, he can actually book a forward contract, which means the time that the client locks in his rate, he's got that rate until he needs to pay the balance of his property transfer, for example. So the client doesn't need to worry then about the fluctuations in the exchange rate, which happens every single minute, basically. So then the client is all the stress of what's the rand going to do against the dollar or against the pound or against the euro is out of the window. So the client is then stress-free, and he focuses on more the property that he's buying than what's the exchange rate is going to do.
Wow, that's amazing. Another question that just came to mind while we're busy discussing this is, so I know in South Africa, there's some sort of regulations about you not being able to send over 1 million rand outside of the country per year, but I know people do send over 1 million rand outside of the country per year. So how do you get around that?
To answer that question, every South African resident is allowed to send 1 million rand a year out of the country without any exchange control approvals. If you go between 1 million and 10 million rand, you need a SARS clearance. We do that for our clients as a complimentary service. And if you go over the 10 million plus your 1 million SDA, you need a South African Reserve Bank approval. We also assist the clients with that process. There's a lot of red tape involved there. We take the stress again off the client, and we ask them for all the relevant documentation, and then our exchange control gets that approval.
Amazing.
Yes.
Sure. So you guys do a lot of work. You guys really do a lot of work to make sure that whole process runs smoothly for the client. Everything's taken care of. They just have to basically give you the money, tell you why they're moving these funds, and then they've obviously got to fill in a bit of paperwork here and there, but you guys are doing the bulk of the work for them. I can imagine that can be quite daunting for anybody looking to send money out of the country.
Yes.
And I've always wondered how those exchange control regulations come into play. South Africa's rules can feel a bit daunting. How do you help clients stay compliant while keeping the process smooth?
Well, we guide our clients through the South African exchange control regulations, making sure they're fully compliant with all legal requirements. We help with the documentation and reporting to the South African Reserve Bank, ensuring everything is in order for their transaction to go through. Because we work with the exchange control and the Reserve Bank every single day, we know what the client needs to give us to get fully compliant and to then get the green light to send their funds over.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. And from your side, have you seen any big changes in the South African foreign investment landscape over the past few years? Are there any patterns or trends we should be keeping an eye on?
Well, I think at the moment, South Africa is definitely improving, and there's a lot of tourists and foreigners visiting our country. And I think when they actually come here and they see Cape Town and they see the winelands and they go on the garden route, they actually see how beautiful our country is. And with the property prices in the US or UK or Europe, to pay the same amount of money for a one-bedroom flat in the UK, you can buy yourself a very nice luxury property in South Africa. So investing in South Africa at the moment is not as expensive than in where they come from. And I mean, they're loving their time here. So to invest in South Africa for long-term investment is definitely the way to go at the moment. And we see a lot of Europeans and US citizens that's investing in the country at the moment.
Amazing. I wanted to quickly interrupt this episode to tell you about my foreign exchange partners, Currencies Direct. Currencies Direct are a foreign exchange company who will help you move your money in or out of South Africa. They'll deal with all the admin and the red tape that come with doing that so that you don't have to. And their services are completely complimentary. If you need to reach out to one of their specialists, contact me and I'll put you in touch with them today. And what's your advice to those people that are bringing those funds into South Africa? Maybe they're a little bit scared about, the economy and, where the exchange rate could be, let's say in the next 5 years. Let's say the rand gets even worse. Now you've brought however much money in and now you want to bring that money back, but it's maybe not worth as much. What do you usually tell those? Do you get those questions from the clients, and how do you usually answer those questions?
We do get those questions, but I always have the conversation with my client. Foreign exchange is very difficult to predict. There's so many factors that can be good or bad for the local currency. It's always best to, if you're in that moment and you want to buy a property, to do it as soon as possible, because you can either wait and it can become more expensive, or it can go the other way around also. It's very difficult to predict. But I think the most important part is at the time that the client really wants to invest in South Africa and buy a property here, it's important that they listen to foreign exchange specialists in South Africa, because we know what the regulations are. It changes a lot, but I mean, we adapt to that. Instead of using your bank or your foreign exchange service in your own country, use us at Currencies Direct in South Africa, because we know what's going on in South Africa at that specific moment. It's difficult for a client to wait and see what's going to happen with the rand. So I think it's always the best thing to do is you get the most competitive rate with us at the right time when you want to transfer those funds to South Africa. And then most importantly, when the funds arrive here, we need to report those funds with the South African Reserve Bank, because if you repatriate your funds in the future, you won't have any issues.
Sure. Yeah. And what are some of the nightmares you've had with clients? I mean, have people not ever been able to, have people been stuck with money just sitting in South Africa that they can't take out of the country because they haven't reported things?
Yeah, so, we've actually picked up a few of those clients in the last few months. I mean, foreigners investing in South Africa and moving to South Africa, and they live here, they lost the golden years, they live in South Africa, but then they want to go back home to their children or their grandchildren. But they bought the property 20 years ago. There's no documentation left, and they sell the property in South Africa. They need to move out of their house. They're back in their home country, but their funds are still stuck in South Africa. It's very stressful for that client with the different time zones, to be in touch with the right people in South Africa that can actually help them to do it. And like I said, it's a complimentary service that we offer the clients, and we keep them updated of the whole process. And it takes time if you don't have the right documentation, but it is possible, and you must just be able to let us do our job, and we'll get your money to you as soon as possible.
Wow. So it is possible. So if all those people that have given up hope and just said, okay, well, my money's sitting there, let's just go spend it all.
Yeah.
Rather just go to Currencies Direct.
Yeah. So it definitely is possible. It's a longer process, and that's why we always tell the clients, when bringing the funds in, use us, because you might not need us now to repatriate those funds, but in 10 years' time, you're going to need our assistance to help you get the funds out.
Sure. Wow. So let's get practical for a second. If I'm a foreigner buying a property in Cape Town, what does the actual process of transferring my money into South Africa look like? Can you walk me through the steps?
All right. So let's say for example, you're a European and you've got euros and you want to buy property in South Africa. I will be in contact with the client. I will get the necessary details from him. I will then transfer that information to our account management team. They will assist the client to register on our platform. We use Barclays as our global account, where the client will then transfer his euros into our Barclays account, euro to euro. Once the funds are received, a foreign exchange dealer will then contact the client, ask him how much rands he needs. We will then exchange the rands, and the dealer will then send the rands to either the estate agency's trust account or the attorney's trust account that's handling the property sale. Clients will normally pay a 10% deposit, and then they've got a few days to pay the balance. Most of our clients that I work with, they pay the full amount straight away. When that funds enter South Africa, we report it with the South African Reserve Bank for the seamless repatriation of the funds in the future if they need to. Once the clients have done the property payment, they come live here for 6 months and they need living funds. They use the same channel to get those funds here. Yeah.
So it's continuous kind of process and relationship with you guys and your forex dealers.
Yes.
To continuously move money in or out.
Yeah, the client will basically email or contact his private dealer that's assigned to him, and he'll say, I need to send 10,000 euros for living funds. The dealer will then exchange it to rands and then send the funds to the account that the client wants it.
And it all comes from a Barclays bank account in the UK. So you'll open a Barclays bank account for this client, and they will then send that money to the Barclays bank account, and then the forex dealer or whatever has access to that account. Or
so the Barclays is our global account with the different wallets, and the client will get a client reference number, and the dealer will give the client the account details where he must send those funds. So we will receive the funds, then exchange it to rands, and then we'll send it to South Africa.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
If the client wants to repatriate funds, our banking partners in South Africa is Capitec Business and Investec. We'll open a trading account in the client's name with either one of those banks, and we will then the attorneys will then transfer the proceeds to the client's account. And once the rands are on account, the dealer will then speak to the client, ask him what currency he wants, exchange the currency, and then send it to the client's bank account abroad.
Sure. Okay, so it's quite a nice streamlined process that you guys have got.
Yeah, and I think the best part is there's no fees involved. Like, the traditional banks will charge fees for services. We don't charge those fees. It's all basically complimentary to the client with no fees charged. And it's just obviously a small margin on the exchange rate.
Sure. Yes. That's amazing. I wanted to interrupt this episode to tell you about one of my sponsors, Van Zyl Kruger Attorneys. I've been working with Van Zyl Kruger Attorneys since I started in the real estate industry, and I can honestly say that they have never let me down on a single transaction. So if you are looking for a transferring attorney on the next sale of your property, then do not hesitate to contact Van Zyl Kruger Attorneys. I've left their details in the comments of this episode, so you can find them there and reach out to them. And if you need any other legal advice, they can also assist you. So don't hesitate to reach out. No. So it's a completely complimentary service. They're not paying you guys at all. You obviously earn on the exchange side of thing.
Yeah, there's no fees involved or commission charged. It's just a small margin on the exchange rate.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah,
sure. So it's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer because if you use us, you save money on the exchange rate, and there's no hidden fees involved. You don't get that on the last transaction. You get a fee that's charged. There's no fees involved. It's just the margin on the exchange rate. So
how does it benefit my clients to use your services during the process of purchasing a property?
Thing is, it's obviously stressful to buy property in South Africa or abroad, right? Because it's a lot of money that you are investing into another country. With us, we take that stress away. We offer you the best competitive rates. We don't charge you any fee, and we save you money on the exchange rate. But most importantly, and I can't say this enough, is when that funds come into the country, it needs to be reported the correct way, and we do that for the client. So the client focuses on the new property that he's investing. We focus on taking his stress away and exchanging his currency to South African rands.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it's very fast. If the client is working with us, the registration and the transfer of those funds is very quick. So there's no delay in payments once the client is registered with us. I know sometimes you've got a deadline to pay the balance, and then if you pay it too late and you don't use a company like us, it takes longer, and the Reserve Bank holds the funds, and then the seller gets upset because the funds are not arrived yet. With us, it's straightforward. It's almost like a EFT from the client to the sellers or the attorney's trust account.
Wow, it's amazing. Yeah, I remember I was traveling in the middle of this year, and I was overseas in Europe, and I had this problem because I was going my bank to another bank account in Europe, and it would take 2 or 3 days for those funds to clear in my account, and I was needing that money. You know? So it's quite an irritating process. So I guess this kind of takes that whole stress, that whole timeline. If you've already registered on your platform, all that's done, money's there in the Barclays account, it's ready to go. It's almost not instant, but it's very quick.
It depends on at the day of time that you trade. If it's in the morning, the funds is in the account the following day. So,
wow. Amazing. Yeah. Sure.
So that obviously helps the estate agents, that they know that someone is looking after the client's money. The client knows someone is looking after their money. They don't have to worry about that time delay or the payment delay. It's going to happen, like you said, almost instant. Saving a few thousands on the exchange rate is great, because then you can put in a new kitchen in your new property that you buy.
Yeah. So my clients are going to be happy.
Yeah.
I'm going to be happy because I know that they're being taken care of, and that I'm also going to have peace of mind, because I want my clients, when they bring money in, if they ever sell that property, I don't want them to be there to be problems or they struggle to get that money out. So it gives me peace of mind when I've got a foreign buyer who doesn't understand how things work, and I don't understand fully how those foreign exchange regulations work, and I can just hand it over to someone, and you guys will take care of that whole process. So it's quite a nice relationship that to work with someone like you. I wanted to interrupt this episode to let you know about Harcourt's Real Estate, one of my sponsors. As you know, I've been an agent with Harcourt's for over 3.5 years, since I started my career in real estate, and I cannot recommend them enough. As an agent, they provided me with the most amazing training through the Harcourts Academy, and they train you all the way from being an intern to becoming a full status agent, taking care of a lot of the red tape and things that are not really fun as an intern as you train. And if you're a seller looking to sell your property, Harcourts have the most amazing processes and technology that can help put your property at the forefront so that it gets sold in the best time and for the best price possible. If you need more details on Harcourts, then please click on the link below. For someone who's about to transfer money for the first time for their first international property purchase, what is your best advice for them?
I think the best for someone that's transferring funds to South Africa or from South Africa for the first time is to plan ahead. And by planning ahead, I mean you use our option where we can book you a forward contract. So you lock in your exchange rate. You use a trusted currency specialist and to make sure that they understand what the fees are when you're transferring funds, and if they go from bank to bank, what the fees are, and tell them the amount of money that you are sending might not be the amount of money that arrives in South Africa. It's important to know that if you don't use someone like us, there is hidden fees involved, and you might be surprised of the amount of funds that lands in South Africa.
Sure.
It's a very daunting button to press to transfer so much money to South Africa or from South Africa. And if you have guidance and like actually a person that's assisting you and not an app that you can't talk to, like you have a person that you can phone if you are stressed or if you need assistance or if you need guidance. Like I think that's the most important thing, is that you need someone that knows about foreign exchange that can assist you if you do a transfer as big as to buy a property in South Africa. So
sure.
Yeah, I think for me, that's the most important thing.
So it might even be worth, even before you've even decided on what property you're going to buy, even just talk to you guys, talk to a foreign exchange expert.
Yes.
Before that.
That's, like you said, then speak to us and then you can make your decision. And I can tell you 99.9% of the time after we've explained to you the process, it's just easier to work with us and let us handle your foreign exchange.
Wow. In closing, Kobus, thanks so much for all the amazing insights and obviously bringing all your amazing knowledge. I think all of my clients, including the South African clients, are going to really love this episode because it's just full of nuggets. It's just, if you watch this episode, by the end of the episode, you'll really understand how the foreign exchange controls work, and you'll know exactly who you're going to work with if you need to send money in or out of South Africa. So thanks so much for coming on the pod and giving up your time. I know you're a busy guy. I know you're running around, and also at this time of the year. Is there anything else that you might want to leave us with before the end of the episode?
Thanks for having me. I appreciate being on the podcast. I mean, there's so much information that I can share with potential clients, and I think it's we've got specialists in each department. It's daunting to think about the departments that I'm not really 100% sure, but I have someone that can guide you at every step of the way. And I think that's the most important part. I might not know everything, and I will make sure that someone in our company that knows, that's an expert, that's a specialist, will give me the information that I can give you. So yeah, it's a big world out there, and foreign exchange is part of it. So yeah, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. And if you guys are thinking of bringing money in or out of South Africa, you can contact me and I will pass your details on to Kobus. He'll make contact and he will assist you with that whole process that we've just gone through. So yeah, thanks again for watching the show, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.
Thanks.